To Berlin now, and a solemn church ceremony has been taking place today where the skulls and bones of nearly 30 victims of German colonial rule in the early 20th century have been handed back to a Namibian government delegation. The remains included 19 skulls, a scalp and bones. Present at the ceremony were Namibian campaigners, German and Namibian governmental representatives.
Our ancestors who are here in front of us today have been here for too long and for no good reason at all. And as such, it is only proper that at last, after 114 years, we are here to take them back home. By trying not to acknowledge the past, the German government will continue to make serious mistakes.
When I'm looking at this, no one will never know what emotions I'm going through. It's very emotional to us. It's very painful to us because I'm not looking at a bone. I'm looking at the skull of a Herero or Nama person. A person who could have been my great-grandmother or great-great-great-grandmother or father.
I'm now joined by the BBC's Johan Dell, who's just returned from Namibia where he was reporting on the human remains there. Now, Johan, who exactly were these victims?
Now, we don't really know a lot about them. We don't have names. We don't have individual life stories. So really all that's known about these specific victims is, say, the ethnicity, obviously, Herero or Nama, the gender, possibly, the age. Beyond that, possibly the cause of death, when it could be established, because a lot of research needed to be done to actually make sure that these are people from Namibia before they're being returned. And so a lot of them died of scurvy, which would have pointed to the fact that they were under appalling conditions in concentration camps, and scurvy was one of the many causes of death that was documented there.
Why were their remains taken to Germany?
Well, the remains were taken to Germany for so-called research. So at the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th century, there was a huge demand for body parts, for skulls, for bones, for human remains in general, even for whole heads. And the reason these so-called scientists wanted them was to essentially prove that the European races were superior over races from other parts of the world, specifically Africa, almost to justify the colonial exploitation that took place at the same time. So this was quite a bizarre research, looking at things like facial muscles on whole heads, or the size of a skull, or even the sort of content, which was measured bizarrely by filling skulls with peas and then counting them. So, this research is totally discredited now and obviously completely racist.
And it's an astonishing story, because you mentioned the Nama and the Herero people of Namibia there. Over 10,000 of them killed. Now they're demanding for an apology from Germany, and they're not getting it. Why is the German government so reluctant to issue this apology?
Well, the German government's position is essentially, we have a moral responsibility, we have a political responsibility, but we don't have a legal responsibility. What this really means is they want to avoid the kind of reparation payments that are on the table at a court case in New York, where some of the Herero and Nama leaders are taken Germany to court, and we're talking about tens of billions that are being discussed there. So really it comes down to the total refusal of the German government to talk about reparations, because the cost would be huge.
Johan Dell, and I do know that you're working on a documentary on this particular story. I just can't wait to watch it. Really fascinating stuff. Thank you very much.